Hey, Richest you money maniacs, welcome back. In this video, I have the distinct privilege of talking about Hertz rental cars again. This is pretty exciting, actually. Let's get right to it. Hey, Richest you money maniacs, welcome back. In this video, I get to talk about Hertz rental car again, the Hertz Global. And remember, if you remember from my earlier videos, Hertz went bankrupt, right? And you know, there's all this push nowadays for when a business gets too big, they're too big to fail, quote unquote. And so the US taxpayers have to bail them out. It's their civic duty to save these companies from becoming bankrupt and closing their doors forever. Well, this is a really wonderful example of why that is not true at all. In fact, the more businesses that fail, the better. Now, here's why. Because if a business fails, the need doesn't go away. It just means that someone else is going to start a business to provide or supply what's needed for that demand, and they're going to have to do a better job. They're going to have to be more fiscally responsible. They're going to have to provide a better product. They're going to have to do better marketing. They're going to have to give better customer service. They're going to have to engage their audience, engage their customers, and convince them to stay with them. That means somebody is going to have to do it better than the dorks who failed. So let's talk about Hertz, shall we? Now that we're talking about dorks, we found a really wonderful article that I'd like to share with you. Let me read a little bit to you. This is from the Naples Daily News. And it was actually published on November 27th of 2020. So this is a very new article. It says, financially troubled Hertz announces plans to sell Donlen Fleet leasing business. So the article begins, financially troubled Hertz has announced plans to sell its Donlen Fleet Leasing and Management subsidiary. So if you remember from my previous video, the challenge with Hertz was that they were still on the stock market after filing for bankruptcy. They were still taking investors' money when they were legally required to be removed from the stock market. You can't go into bankruptcy and continue to sell stocks. It's illegal, but they did it. So where was the SEC when all this happened? Well, that's a whole different video. So in this article, though, it shows that what's occurring in Hertz is called a financial restructuring. So the really wonderful thing about that is that in the financial restructuring of business like Hertz, you can follow what happens to a business who is so big that they're not supposed to fail. They can't be allowed to fail, but they fail anyway. And what happens when they do fail? Guess what? Chunks of them get chopped off and sold. In fact, the dead weight, the parts that are being mismanaged, the parts that are losing the company money, suddenly are no longer essential. And we talked about that in another video. The idea here is that basically it cleans out the company. It basically gives the company a big enema. So you clean out all of that stuff, right? You get rid of the people who helped drive you to the point of bankruptcy as well, including executive leadership. So what's going to be really interesting in this particular example is to see what Hertz does to try and fix themselves financially. Now, let me read a little bit of this article to you so you understand what's actually happening. Estero-based Hertz Global Holdings, parent of the Hertz Corporation, has entered into a stock and asset purchase agreement with Athene Holding Limited, a leading financial services company based in Bermuda. With adjustments for fleet equity, working capital, and assumed debt, Hertz Global expects the deal to bring a purchase price of at least $875 million. In a news release, Hertz Global's president and CEO Paul Stone said, the sale will be another significant accomplishment in its road to recovery. Hertz Global filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy under the mound of debt in May, totaling roughly $19 billion. Now keep in mind, this one deal is only going to be worth $875 million, so not even a whole $1 million. They still have 19 other billion to deal with. After taking a big hit from the coronavirus pandemic, which put the skids on travel. The Donlan subsidiary, this is a subsidiary of Hertz Global, was a part of the filing, along with Hertz Global's more well-known car rental business, which operates the Hertz, Dollar, and Thrifty brands. The deal to sell Donlan follows several other key steps Hertz Global has taken in its financial restructuring efforts. This is the part I want you to really listen closely to. The bankruptcy court recently approved $1.65 billion in new financing offered by some of the company's first lien or first in line lenders before the Chapter 11 filing. So right before they filed for Chapter 11 protection, which is to protect them against these lenders, their first in line people that they owe money to allowed them to borrow $1.65 billion, which means, of course, that the $19 billion was increased, I have to guess, and a separate $4 billion financing deal to refresh Hertz fleet. So, these are the lenders. This is not the government rushing in or the Federal Reserve rushing in. These are the actual lenders who are lending money to Hertz, who is just about to file bankruptcy, then does file bankruptcy, but they still believe that this is a viable business. It has enough divisions, enough subsidiaries, enough assets that once things start to move again, they will be able to pay this $19 billion off in debt. Now, the wonderful thing about this is that you get to see in this article part of how something like a failure of a large business like this can actually turn into a positive. That's why I keep arguing that a business is never too big to fail. It's always too big if it doesn't provide a good enough product and quality service that people stay with it so that it stays solvent, or if it's too big that it thinks it doesn't need to follow basic financial math and accounting fundamentals. That's when it becomes too big. When they think that they're too big to fail and that the taxpayer will always rush in and save them, that's when they take all the risks that they should not be taking. That's why it's so essential to send a very clear message to these large companies that you are never too big to fail. In fact, we're going to let you fail, and then we're going to have another entrepreneur come in and do it better and show you what you should have been doing all along. How about that for a thought? Let's get back to the article. The Donlan sale will position Hertz Global and its rental business for the future, Stone said. We believe this transaction provides significant additional flexibility to help us achieve our strategic and financial objectives, he said. At the same time, customers will continue to be able to benefit from Donlan's commitment to excellence in fleet management solutions and services. In the news release, Tom Callahan, Donlan's president, said the sale will position the longtime fleet management and leasing business for continued long-term success. Our fleet customers remain our top priority, and we look forward to continuing to be a trusted partner providing high levels of customer satisfaction, impactful technology, and fleet solutions, he said. This is a brilliant response from probably an extremely intelligent executive. Is as hard as things may be right now, as tough as business may be with all of these lockdowns and all of the health challenges and all these elected officials pretending that they're all dictators and they're little fiefdoms, right? This guy is focused on the future and focusing on the most important element of all. For all you maniacs out there, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the value exchange. Giving your customers great service, great product. Remember, your superpower as a consumer is where you spend your dollar, who you open your wallet to. And so your superpower as a business is to provide the highest quality, the best customer service at the most reasonable price. Notice that I did not say the lowest price. I said at the most reasonable price, because it is absolutely a psychological fact that if people get stuff for free, they don't respect it, they don't value it. When people pay $1,000 for an iPhone, you can be sure they value that. When they get an iPhone for free from their mom or their dad, it's just another piece of junk that they leave laying around and forget, or gets broken or left, or not even used. When people have to pay a price for a product that they believe is worth it, and they feel good paying that price for it, and they feel like they're getting an exchange in abundance for it, they will not only respect the effort that goes into providing it, but they will appreciate owning it more. They'll get more joy and more value out of it because they'll focus on it. And remember, man, I paid a good penny for this. I got to make sure I use it, right? So that's just part and parcel with the idea here. You must provide quality service, quality product. You must be the best at what you do. Even in the middle of a bankruptcy, Hertz could have taken the easy way out and just let all of their lenders just, tough, we're not going to pay you back, we're going out of business, we're shutting down the Hertz business completely. But they have enough assets under them that are valuable and enough of a good brand that they're actually able to monetize that brand and monetize it in terms of what their future profits will be. That's really important for you to understand. Their credibility, despite being in Chapter 11, is still very high. People still believe the Hertz brand can bring good value. So in summary, do you really honestly believe that any business is ever too big to fail? Or maybe are they so big that they should actually be looked at more closely and dissected to see which parts are profitable and which parts aren't, and maybe offer up the opportunity for someone else to come in and scoop up those assets and run them better than whoever it was that was running them before. Remember, just because somebody goes bankrupt or is completely shut down does not mean that the demand is not still there. It may not be the same level of demand, but there's still demand. You still need fleets. You still have some people renting cars. It may not be as many as it used to be. So they can't take the risks that they used to take. They have to be a little bit on the safer side, a little more on the cautionary side, and they have to do the job better and more efficiently, which means you're going to find people who come in with real innovation, new ideas. That's the exciting thing about this thought, about this idea. Hertz may be a really good model to watch when a large company almost folds and then figures out a way to actually save themselves and save the brand from complete failure, like Lehman's, right? There's always an opportunity when you're that big to be able to figure out a solution that does not require any kind of bailout from the government. In fact, I would even argue that the bigger the business is, the better chance at restructuring it there is. And so really what you have to look at is the leadership. Is the leadership allowing a restructuring to occurring? And actually restructuring for leadership often means they get ousted and a new leader comes in, if they even keep the brand going. So that's a whole different topic altogether. I hope that you got out of this video the idea that there's no excuse for taxpayers being required to bail out any business, especially when they're big, because when they're big, there's always a way to restructure the deal or sell off parts to be able to dig themselves out of the hole and get rid of people who drove them into the hole, including CEOs and presidents or executives. So I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you got value out of it. Please think about that when you're mastering your own finances, right? Is there a way to structure or restructure your own life, your own finances? Think about that for a second. Have you really been thinking creatively and outside of the box on ways to master your finance? That's a good question that you should probably ask yourself every day. All right, so if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Even better, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We would love to have you back again. And even more importantly, if you got something out of this, or you have some questions, or you completely disagree with my opinion, please put it down in the comments. I love to have conversations with viewers. Until next time, everybody, thanks for tuning in.